Good morning to you. A smoky morning on this Wednesday. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell, and of course our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with absolutely the best in tires and, of course, a very safe, clean environment. And our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and I hope we've got a patriot with a Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
You have a smoky-voiced patriot with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I thank you for calling. God bless and have a wonderful day, and be careful out there. Thank you so much.
You too.
Thank you.
God bless.
What a nice person. Time for the weather, and I would love to see a whole bunch of rainfall, and I'd love to see a whole bunch of wind. I know this is crazy from me, but to get this smoke out of here or put the fires out, my goodness, huge fires up in the South Hills. K&R Rental brings us the weather at 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn. You know that Roger and the crew have got the best tools and equipment for you to finish any kind of a job. Any kind of a job, absolutely, for both long and short-term rentals. So get a hold of them today, K&R Rental. They're big, they're good, they know. And the number to call, 678-3122. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
That air quality alert is still in effect, and a fire weather watch is going to be in effect for tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Widespread haze for today. Again, if you have upper respiratory issues, please stay inside and make sure you take your inhalers with you wherever you go. We are expecting sunny skies. Not much of a breeze to speak of, and a high of 87. Tonight, widespread haze, clear skies, low of 51. Tomorrow, that smoke going to stick around, sunny skies, high of 90. And then we're going to be in a fire weather watch beginning tomorrow evening. Widespread haze, partly cloudy skies, low of 55. Do have a slight chance of late afternoon rain showers and thunderstorms for Friday, expecting a high of 83. Winds could gust as high as 25 miles an hour by Saturday. Showers likely, about a 60% chance, along with some thunderstorms as well. Partly sunny skies and a high of 67. That's look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, my goodness. Let's hope we get something to help with these fires. Get rid of the fire. K&R Rental brings you the weather at 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. Nice people that know all about tools and equipment that'll help you finish any kind of a task. I urge you, if you're not sure what you need, give them a call, 678-3122, K&R Rental. Caller, I'll be right there. Hang tough. I want to remind everybody that already this morning, starting at 7:30, Ramsey Heating and Electric opened the doors and is serving all of their customers. Absolutely, Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. All your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. What a great company for almost 7 decades. Holy moly, of serving you. Knowledgeable people with all the best of heating, cooling, and electrical needs. Ramsey Heating and Electric. 678-0459, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Jeb and Deanne.
Thank you, Keith. What's going on in your world?
Well, yesterday you and I had a little difference of I shouldn't say a difference of opinion, but I put all the news medias into one basket, and I shouldn't have. But this morning I am upset again because our president has done something that no one else has ever been able to do. And they said it could not be done. He's brokered this peace talks between Israel and the Arab world.
Yep.
What a phenomena.
Yeah, and he gets nothing more than a wink and a nod from the other media, and the Democrats are coming out. You know, Keith, I'm almost sorry that you called and started the program off with this, and I'll tell you why. Because it just makes me so furious that the media, a left-wing, absolutely distorted, disturbed, and absolutely demented media, will not give a man credit for what could be the place of Armageddon, and he helped secure at least a little bit of a foothold and a toehold of peace in the Mideast with this accord. And the media doesn't give him any credit. He hardly gets a mention anywhere. Nothing good in the papers. I mean, what a bunch of... I got to be cool, Keith. I've got to watch my language.
Yeah. You watch out for your barnyard.
Yes.
But it's just disgraceful the way our president has been treated.
Yes.
I mean, it brings tears to my eyes to think of how disgusting these people have been. Nancy Pelosi, my goodness sakes.
What a disgusting...
What a disgrace of a human she is.
Well, she's nothing more than an advertisement for Botox. And quite frankly, I have no good words to say about Nancy Pelosi. So therefore, I'm not even going to talk about her. I think she's disgusting. I think she should have left politics and gone back to San Francisco and stayed in that beauty salon wearing a mask that she didn't have originally. I have nothing good to say about Nancy Pelosi.
Well, at last the president threw down the gauntlet, and there's going to be something done, because if she doesn't come to terms, she's going to lose her job.
I hope so. I hope that this
I do
woman
too.
Is absolutely thrown out on her ear. Keith, you did it again. This time, however, we agree 110%. Thank you. I appreciate your call.
Hey, I need another star.
I don't count on all the big stuff, Keith. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Oh.
All right. Thank you. Oh, yes. I totally agree with Keith and his concept. Absolutely. Mideast peace deal that is a stepping stone and a toehold to get more peace hopefully secured in the region. And the media, nothing. They just turn a blind eye and a deaf ear. And I saw a lot of coverage on Fox News. I saw very limited coverage on some of the three big networks, ABC, CBS, along with NBC. Very, very limited, and I didn't catch everything, to be fair. But I didn't hear anything good at all come from CNN or MSNBC. Those people are absolutely disturbed. Caller, I'll be right there. I want to remind everybody about Dino's Septic Service. Oh, they do the job that you and I don't want to do. I don't want to be out there on a 90-degree day pumping out a septic tank. No. And they do the liquid waste removal and sewer and sink drain line cleaning, everything, backhoe services. You better believe it, they serve the entirety. Holy cow, I mean, Grouse Creek to American Falls, Twin Falls to Jerome, Burley, Rupert area, they are all over serving you with great equipment to get the job done right. Dino's Septic Service. 436-6526 or 678-1638. You give them a call today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. At the Burley Senior Center, today we're having beef tacos and all trimmings for a great lunch.
Okay, and what's the dessert, Mr. Dessert Man?
Pardon?
I say, what is the dessert for today, Joe?
What's for dessert?
Yes.
They haven't told me that yet, but it'll be good.
Okay. All right, tacos sounds pretty doggone delicious, Joe. We'll tell everybody either to stop in or call for a takeout.
Only $5 and all the lunch you need.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe Taylor. God bless you. Over at the Senior Center on Overland. Thank you very much, Joe. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. At about the bottom of the hour, I am going to tell you a story that when I heard this, And then I looked it up, and I read all the print material on this story. I was so enraged that behind me on my shelf, I've got some baseballs. Baseball that was signed by the world champion Milwaukee Braves at the time. I wanted to pick that baseball up and just zing it right into the wall. It is so frustrating. And we're going to get into that at 8:30, so be sure and stay tuned. It's about time, finally, 3 worthless BLM, Black Lives Matter, were arrested for harassing diners, and spoiling their meal, and spilling their plates on the floor, and spilling their beverages when they went in and took over a restaurant. I am so glad that people are turning them in and they are getting arrested. And also arrested are some of the paid punks. That's right, paid punks in Pennsylvania. Boy, there's a lot of pee-popping right there. Paid punks in Pennsylvania. There you go. For their burning and rioting. I am so glad, and I'm ecstatic, that law and order and judges are starting to say enough of this garbage, and they're going out and getting the bad guys, putting them in jail, locking them up, and I hope they throw the doggone key away. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Denny's Restaurant, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and I'm so hopeful that we can have a lunch bunch. I'm going to let you all know next Monday. That's our day of decision, and it's going to be at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Yes, and they have another location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. All the great menu choices, and I mean that, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and all the desserts, and super, super nice people serving you. What more do you want? It's at America's Diner. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. You stop in and see those really nice people today. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, is anybody out there seen that television commercial? I saw it last night for what's called a Z shield, and it's a piece of plastic that goes around. You have a neck brace basically, and it's a piece of plastic connected to that neck brace, and it flips up and down. It's supposedly a great innovative idea. It kind of looks like a motorcycle windshield, honestly. And it flips up and down, and it's supposed to be the new in thing to wear in place of a mask. I mean, what? I don't know what you folks think about masks, but imagine wearing that all day long. And you're trying to eat and maybe have a bowl of soup, or maybe eat a cheeseburger, and you got to flip it up, flip it down, flip it up, flip it down. Oh, come on. What kind of world are we living in? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning again. You know, when you're talking about this phony thing, we used to use these kind of things when we were grinding or something, you know, to protect our eyes. And it was always in your way because you flipped it up.
Yeah.
This is something they're going to flip down, so if you're eating, it'll give a place, you know, kind of like a trough.
Yeah,
for your food to fall in.
I know. Hey, did you see the commercial and see what I'm talking about?
Many times I've seen it, and I've tried to figure out how in the world it's going to work. But
you know, isn't it
if you want to make fun of people, I mean, if you want people to make fun of you, I'd say get one.
Yeah, you walk up to somebody, and then all of a sudden you got to flip your little shield up, and it's going to be dirty, and you're going to have a hard time seeing through it, and you might flip it down, and then you're having lunch, and you spill tomato soup all over it. I got to tell you, and I don't care who's offended by this, I am sick and tired of we got to live in a hazmat suit and try to live in a bubble. It's absolutely insane.
You know, a place like Smith which is, I know you don't like to do commercials and everything, but I'm just
I don't like to mention names
as a grocery
of anybody.
store.
Yeah.
And they're required to wear masks because that is a corporate thing.
Yeah.
And people will put them on and everything and go in there, and then they take them, pull them down on their chin there, and just go about their shopping.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but, they're kind of infringing on our rights.
Kind of?
Well, not entirely, I don't think. I think the intentions are good, but overdone.
Well, I guess I don't like being told what to do or threatened that if I don't, I might go to jail, or like the gym owner in New Jersey having his business license taken away, even though he jumped through every hoop that the state wanted on cleanliness and making sure everything was disinfected and that everybody wore a mask and that everybody practiced social distance. But the governor absolutely had a great big mad on for this man and his business, because then he jerked his license. And I'm telling you what, Keith, I'm looking at a bunch of governors and mayors of various cities that absolutely need to be tarred and feathered for trying to gain so much control through the adversity of this pandemic.
The one thing I'd like to see is our Governor Little, to go out and talk to some of these people who have had business and they're not even able to open them. One of the case in points is that Sweetheart Manor that's been operating in Burley for 60 years, and now they're going to have to close their doors. Doggone it, that makes me so angry. I just don't know how to react to it.
Yeah, I understand
how
what you
to help
mean.
these people.
Small business owners all across the United States are suffering in such great proportions, and my heart goes out to them. Keith, I appreciate your call. Another good point of interest. Thank you. Caller number 2, I'm going to be right with you. Bear with me. I want to tell you all about the Bennett Boys Auction Service. They're going to have the Pat Mathers Moving Sale at 11 o'clock this coming Saturday over in Buell at 4176 North, 1000 East. Look for the signs, lunch by the Cook Shack. They're going to have all kinds of tractors and stock trailers and farm equipment, tack and horse equipment, shop tools, furniture and household. As a matter of fact, talking about tractors, they've got a David Brown Selectomatic 999 diesel tractor, and they've got a David Brown 1212 diesel tractor, among others, along with snow blowers, etc. You better get over to this sale managed by the Bennett Boys Auction Service in Buell this coming Saturday, the Pat Mathers Moving Sale, and the Bennett Boys Auction Service. No sale too big, no sale too small. The Bennett Boys, they sell them all. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Zeb. This shutdown in the state got to stop. They had a report last night on the news about the big increase in suicides. I mean, we're seeing a significant increase in suicides. And I personally have a friend that's relative here in the Magic Valley, couldn't get support group help, is doing quite well with that. And when the support group help ended, he took his life about 6 or 8 weeks ago. Anyway, it's unbelievable that this virus, we never shut the country down because of flu. When you total up the actual numbers, even the CDC, you've read these reports, said that only 6% of the people actually die from COVID-19, and the other 94% die with the virus. And this is what's really sad. And people that have pre-existing conditions, particularly respiratory problems, and boy, that smoke out there is thick as pea soup this morning. It looks not good. And I tell you, the governor just doesn't seem to respond to the people. He shut this down without even consulting any of the state legislators.
Well, we've been over this ground 1,000 times, Adrian, and I agree with you 1,000% for everything you say. And I'm going to be having Brad Little back on the program again this next week. So I'm not going to cover a bunch of dirt that we've talked about 1,000 times in the past. But I am going to say that I'm getting sick and tired. And tomorrow, be sure and be listening at 10:30 because I've got that great doctor, Dr. Carla Dean Graves, coming back on to talk about lockdowns, shutdowns, and everything else at 10:30 tomorrow. But I will agree with you. I've had it, and I'm sick and tired of the mask finger-pointing. I'm sick and tired of, we all got to live in a bubble. For how long? And for what? We're looking at flu season coming back. We're looking at cold season coming back. Kids are going to be coming home from school. They're going to be sick with the flu. We're going to be continually besieged with all of this, plus the coronavirus. But you got to live. You can't live in a doggone bubble.
Oh, absolutely. It's just ridiculous. And so, again, that number for the governor is 334-2100, 334-2100. Get on the phone. I've talked to him. I've contacted the governor's office, email, and at least a dozen times, and I'm sure it's more than that. And I've never received one reply, email or otherwise. He just seems to be living in a bubble himself with his health experts, but he's not listening to the people and our cries. Our businesses are closing. People are committing suicide. It's ridiculous. Anyway,
I've got another
serious business. Thanks a lot, Deb. Have a great day.
I appreciate it, Adrian. You're spot on. I appreciate it, but I got to get going. I want to remind you every Monday at 8:30, we give away a dozen delicious, absolutely fantabulous cookies from Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street in Rupert, right on the square. What a bakery. What a restaurant. You're going to love it. And thanks to Sophie's Chatterbox. Be tuned in 8:30 next Monday, and we'll give away a dozen cookies. Delicious. I'm going to do another commercial so I can spend some time on this story. And I know that many of you will think, it's not that big a deal. Well, it is to me, and I'll explain why in just a minute. Berry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Hello, down the road from me, and along with 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin and the Nampa location. They've got all the best of tools and equipment like all the Bobcats and, of course, all the trenchers and the scissor lifts, and they got all the Doosan and all the equipment, the excavators and wheel loaders, for all the lifting and the digging and the pushing and the carrying. I mean, they've got the equipment right there. And if you're not sure how to run it, no problem. They'll teach you. Absolutely. Berry Equipment and Rental, Sales, Service, and Parts. They're there to serve you in Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. You stop in and see them today. All right. We are very easily led, myself included, to say complete negativity about the younger generation. And that's not fair. There are a lot of kids that absolutely have got their head screwed on straight, and with good parental upbringing and family situations, they are growing up to be, I think, excellent American citizens. But our education system in general is dropping the ball right through the floor by not allowing and or teaching pride in this great country of America, the greatest country ever on the face of the earth. If you don't believe in it, go away. And when you hear kids that are doing something that is absolutely great, I mean, it made me cry, and if you want to make fun of me, go ahead. But last Friday night in Ohio, at a high school football game, it was called Patriots Night. Okay? And if I start getting a little emotional during this, I don't care. It was called Patriots Night. And a son of a policeman and a son of a firefighter that play on the team, excellent football team, excellent players, They led their team on the field with the United States flag, followed by a flag in tribute to our first responders and a flag in tribute to our police. You know what they got for it? They got suspended from school. They got suspended from school. They were carrying those flags to honor, if you'll think back just a couple of days, that was 9/11. They were carrying the flags to honor the first responders of 9/11, and in particular, one son carried a flag in honor of his dad that he is so proud of, being a policeman. And another of the football team members carried a flag for the fireman, because his dad's a fireman, both of which want to follow in their dad's footsteps. And the school suspends these kids because the school said the flags were divisive and might make some people ill at ease. What kind of a damn society are we creating for our kids? They're learning to hate America, and we've got people in school administrations that are aiding and abetting that thought. Yes, I'm upset. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
You certainly sound like it.
I am, and I don't apologize.
Okay. Well, I watched that on Fox this morning, the interview of those two young men. Fine young men.
Yes.
And first of all, I wouldn't want to be one of those people on the school board. I think they'll be excoriated, or maybe worse than that.
They should be tarred and feathered and thrown in the lake. I am absolutely sick and tired of young people always being denigrated. And then when you have something like this that shows pride and love of country and love of their fathers and their family for what they do, and then these kids get suspended from school, where is the common sense, Keith Cottom?
Well, there is none there. And you know what? The thing about it that's most disturbing to me is they didn't interrupt anything.
That's right.
They did just... I imagine the people in the stands stood up and cheered for them.
I'll tell you what, when I saw that football team hit the field and run with these players carrying those flags, I'll tell you my heart just made a great big lump up into my throat. I thought it was phenomenal and fantastic. And then these kids get suspended. My goodness, what's the matter with adults in our society?
Well, I think there's going to be some openings in the school board in that area.
I hope so. I hope so, Keith. Thank you for your call. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Caller
bye.
number 2, you're on the air. Go ahead. Tell me what your thoughts are.
Well, my thoughts are, Zeb, is that I've taken up smoking the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I haven't even had to light up. And I don't know if that's going to raise my insurance or not, because I'm a smoker now.
Okay, what's your point right there, though?
Well, we got all this smoke in the air. And
well, okay. I'm talking about these high school kids right now, and I'm not really... I know the fires are serious, but I'm on another subject right now, and I'm not going to get off of it for a minute. If you want to give me your response about these kids that were doing nothing but showing patriotism, let me hear your remarks.
Well, they were doing what's right, and you and Keith hit it on the head before. You know, it's ridiculous what's going on.
Absolutely, and I agree with you on the smoke, because I'm telling you what, it's just hard to be around this when you're an asthmatic or have hay fever. It's really tough. Sir, I appreciate your call and comment. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Caller number 3, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Morning, Zeb. I just listened to what you were saying there. I couldn't agree more. These young men really need to be commended for their courage and patriotism to stand up, especially at a time when they're going to be persecuted in ways for what they're doing. And my thought on this was, this is something that we need to show and teach our children. You know, you hope that these young men can see sort of the divide that's out there at this time, and that they understand that they have a role to play in that as they go forward. I mean, we talk all the time about young people and, you know, the colleges and people who want to change our current system. And here's a couple of young men who are experiencing what it's like to fight back against that. And so there is hope for that younger generation. And, you know, my thought on it was I need to sit down with my children tonight and say, look what happened to them. That's what we're up against, and, you know, they stood for it, and hopefully there'll be a good ending to it. So
you know,
that was my thought.
Here's the whole thing. Don't hang up. Here's the whole thing with me. I don't even care from point A, where they were suspended, to point B if they're reinstated. I don't think they should have ever been chastised or minimalized for their actions of being patriotic and showing love for their fathers and showing respect for 911 and all the first responders. I mean, what kind of a low-life superintendent or school board, I hate to even give them credibility by calling them that name, what kind of low-life filling those positions would say that these kids are divisive and might make some people ill at ease? I mean, I was so enraged over this because that suspension probably will go on their record.
It probably will, and that is something that's very hard to understand. I mean, we've seen schools, we see schools each year give tributes to military members, to firefighters, to policemen. That happens, at least I've seen it locally, you know, year in and year out. And so to think that I would think their free speech would protect those, you know, their ability to express that, especially for people who have and are patriots in our country.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so easy, and you touched on it earlier, and I did too. It's so easy to look at the younger generation today and criticize them, especially the millennials with their hand out and a tin cup in their hand saying, gimme, gimme, gimme. But here, you have examples of young men that are on a football team, and they want to honor their dads, they want to honor America, and they want to honor first responders, and then they get suspended. What kind of a messed up, screwed up world are we creating for these kids?
It doesn't send a good message at all. And again, I think we need to, you know, honor them in our, you know, I can't do much about their school board or anything right now, but I could show my children and say, look, this is what these people are saying, and this is what they did, and I fully support the boys, and I think what was done to them is wrong.
Amen.
And our kids, our grandkids, that message has to be repeated in some form so that they can understand what they're up against. And, you know, if we teach them what's right, I think that they'll follow through and do a better job than their predecessors.
I couldn't agree more, and I thank you. Thank you for your call. Have a great day. Thank you, sir.
You too. Thank you.
All right. You know, I watched the interview. I heard about the story yesterday, and I did some follow-up research on it. And then I saw the kids, these two young men. I'm not going to call them kids. They were two very nice, very polite young men, football members of that team. And they were interviewed and asked if they would do it again. And the one young man said, absolutely, 100%, I would do it again. I am very proud of my dad as a policeman. He has been a hero to me, and I want to follow in his footsteps. The other young man was asked if he would do it again, and he said, absolutely. His dad is a fireman, and he said, I am very proud of my father, and I want to follow also in his footsteps. It just made my heart swell up with pride for these two kids. And then they were denigrated by the stupidity of the school board and the administration. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir. Those two fathers I'll bet you they're walking around with their chest all puffed out and so proud of their young men that they have raised.
I don't even know the kids or the families. I'm trying to get them on my program next week if I can, but I'm walking around so proud of those kids.
Exactly. And there's a lot of young kids out there like that because their parents raised them right, raised them to respect others, to respect the country they live in and be proud of the country they live in and were born in and be able to defend it. These two young men right here will go down. They will raise other children that is just as proud as they are.
Yep.
I mean, but the word that everybody uses when they want to ban something is the word might. Somebody might be offended.
Let me throw something at you real quick, Doug. I was offended. I know you were offended because you commented on it one day on my program. I was offended when Black Lives Matter just decided that they were going to paint in big yellow letters Black Lives Matter at various streets in various cities all across the United States, because I don't believe in their Marxist, communist, absolutely destroying of family values organization. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, let's put this in perspective. What would have happened, Doug, if that flag of Black Lives Matter had been carried onto the field? I bet you nobody would have done a thing because they would have been afraid to.
Exactly. You nailed it right there. They were afraid. There's a young lady who was on the news the other day, and she was talking. And she come over from one of the Middle East countries, and she made a comment. She says, "Are you willing to die for what you believe in? And in your last breath, will you still believe in what you're dying for?"
Yes. I saw that interview. I agree with you.
Oh, wasn't that just sent chills up my spine when I heard her talk?
Yeah. But, you know, staying with this story about these high school kids, again, I don't want to use the word kid. They were strong, young men that had convictions for following in their father's footsteps and convictions of loving this country. I mean, have we really sunk that low in the toilet that we're going to suspend these young men for being proud Americans?
Apparently, Zeb, we went down the wrong road. Now it's time for us to correct it.
Absolutely. Doug, always appreciate your call. I got another one waiting. Thank you very much.
But there's one thing I'd like to say about these young men. I would be proud if my daughter was to bring one of them home as her boyfriend.
There you go. I couldn't agree more. Doug, appreciate it. I got to run. Thank you so much.
Take care of our senior centers. God bless.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Caller, I will take your call prior to the weather. Go ahead, please. You're on the air.
Okay. What really makes me sad about this situation is I see it on Fox Network, a national network, but not everybody gets that. What about their local news outlets, TV, radio, and that sort of thing? Are they doing anything about it? I'll bet they're not.
You know, Keith, that's a good point, and it's very unfortunate that the good things that are going on with our youth in America today are just basically put on the cutting room floor, if you will, and now those videos and those interviews, etc., are not seen and heard by the majority of America, and that's shameful and it's sad. I agree with you 1,000%. Thank you very much, Keith. I appreciate it. I got to run to the weather. Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Calls are welcome and appreciate. I do not apologize, nor will I ever, for my emotion on that story, because I'm doggone proud of those two men, young men, that were interviewed this morning. The pride and the love that they showed for their fathers and their country was absolutely merit-worthy. And yet, they were suspended. Weather forecast brought to you by our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology, and they've got all the ability and the technology to customize their treatment of your hearing problems. That's right. They have access to the best practices and technology to make sure that you can have hearing again. Oh, my goodness, very important. And Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, they're right behind the Minidoka County Hospital, across from the emergency ward, and you can get in there by just calling 312-0957. Make an appointment today if you've noticed any diminishment in your hearing health. 312-0957. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
That air quality alert is still in effect, and a fire weather watch is going to be in effect for tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Widespread haze for today. Again, if you have upper respiratory issues, please stay inside and make sure you take your inhalers with you wherever you go. We are expecting sunny skies. Not much of a breeze to speak of, and a high of 87. Tonight, widespread haze, clear skies, low of 51. Tomorrow, that smoke going to stick around, sunny skies, high of 90. And then we're going to be in a fire weather watch beginning tomorrow evening. Widespread haze, partly cloudy skies, low of 55. Do have a slight chance of late afternoon rain showers and thunderstorms for Friday, expecting a high of 83. Winds could gust as high as 25 miles an hour by Saturday. Showers likely, about a 60% chance, along with some thunderstorms as well. Partly sunny skies and a high of 67. That's Look at Your Weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina, and brought to everybody by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And please remember that if you'll call the number and make an appointment, they can help you. They've helped me, and I guarantee you they've got all the technology. They can help your hearing. 312-0957, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. You know, our whole society is just turned upside down. I mean, what's good is bad, bad is good. And they'll let all these vermin run around the streets, burning, looting, and shooting, and hurting people, damaging private property. And they get all the headlines. And then, of course, we're supposed to feel sorry for groups like Black Lives Matter, et cetera. It's not going to happen with me. And then, when you have a story like this, where these two football players led their team out of the locker room onto the field. Actually, there were three, one carrying, of course, the national flag, our red, white, and blue, and then, of course, the other flags, and salute to our first responders and our police. Wow. If I'd have been in the stands as a parent of one of those young men, I would have, like it was said earlier, my heart would have been busting with pride. Pride. But the school board says, and the administration says, well, no, that was probably very divisive, and it might make some people feel ill at ease. What kind of sick, pathetic society are we living in? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
It's just me, Zeb. I just wanted to make a comment on this. I think the parents should sue.
Well, I'm not above that at all.
You know,
I mean,
not just the school, but the individuals personally.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you. I think that their record should be cleansed, and if there's any record of any suspension over this, it should be thrown in the lake.
Amen.
God bless you. I agree. I think it's time for all of us. I don't care if it's Ohio. I don't care if it's Arizona. I don't care if it's Arkansas. I don't care if it's here. This kind of garbage has got to stop. When we've got young people that are willing to stand up and speak out with pride about our country and about their fathers. I mean, when they were talking about their dads this morning, and, you know, typical teenagers, sometimes it's hard to show emotion and say that you love mom and dad and all this. We've all been through that. But not with these two. No, not at all. These two big, strapping young men, excellent football players for their team, very proudly said, I wanted to honor my dad, because he is my role model, and I want to be like him. Wow. I mean, wow, that's powerful. And the way things should be in our society with our families and our youngsters and pride in America. But then you've got some dizzy-headed adults that don't know come here from Sikkim, and they say, oh, well, what they did by carrying those flags was possibly divisive and might make some people feel ill at ease. The heck with them! Let's restore pride in America. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Center is our major sponsor on this program, and we're very proud to have them. Absolutely. For all your travel, whether it's just around here in the valley or you're headed down south or wherever you're going, they've got all the tires, all the sizes, all the tread designs for your vehicles, cars, pickups, SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, whatever. And the knowledge. I mean, all of these people majored in tireology. They understand everything about tires. And they also have the best of people for brake service, front-end alignment, shocks and struts, and batteries. Like I said, we're going to start seeing a dip in the temperatures coming in the next couple of days. Make sure you've got a really good battery for this fall and winter. Stop into your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. James in Buell, Dan on Pole Line in Twin Falls, Lane in Rupert, Mike in Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes, and, of course, the Twist family over in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. The best, yes, they are, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go.
Yeah, who are these people that would be offended? That's what I don't understand.
Oh, you do too. You know doggone well who's offended. There are those in our midst and those across the United States that any kind of patriotism, any kind of showing that you have pride in America, they will speak out and they'll call anonymously to a school board or a school office and say they don't like that. And being the cowards that they are, school boards and others in leadership, if you want to call it that, will cringe in the corner and say, oh, we got to stop. Somebody might not like that. You know as well as I do, Alias. Come on.
Well, if they don't like it, I'm first in line to buy them a ticket to go somewhere else.
Well, I'll contribute to that fund. I mean, I'm more than happy to say, take a long walk off a very short pier. This is America. It's a land to be proud of. It's a land that no other country has what we have. And I'm sick and tired of the denigration of this country.
Exactly. And these people that get voted into office, how do they get there? I mean, people are really that dumb to vote people in like that? I mean, we've got...
Well, evidently, when you got Pelosi and Schumer, and you've got the likes of Kamala Harris and Biden running for the presidency, yeah, I guess we've got a pretty dumb segment of our society that's pushing for Marxism and socialism.
And we've got one for governor, too.
You can have your opinions on that. I'm not ever going to stop anybody from voicing opinion. But what I am saying, when you have young people that are showing pride in America, how dare adults try to stymie that? I've got to run to the news, but I do appreciate your call.
Okay, bye.
All right, sir. We're going to take a little break. I got to cool down. Where's that blood pressure medicine when I need it? And coming back next hour with my dear friend back in Indianapolis, Indiana, Dave Vigo. And then at 9:30 this morning, we've got a candidate for the California governorship. His name is Omar Navarro. You've seen him on television, and he in the past also ran against Maxine Waters. Oh, the stories that man can tell. We'll be back in about 7 minutes. Good morning and welcome back. Hour number 2, Zeb at the Ranch, and of course brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with a very safe, clean environment, and of course the best in tires. And we'd like to thank also Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, we're going to hear this good word for our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western
Waste Services, don't forget you get on the route service, they'll pick up your garbage. You want a dumpster, they've got dumpsters in various sizes. They've got the mini storage units. They got everything. And they've got the porta potties too. Maybe you need some porta potties at the end of the field during harvest. Well, call them 734-6969. Always at your disposal. Western Waste Services. Absolutely. Want to also give a great big shout-out here this morning to our friends over at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. Good morning, Joel Heward, family, and staff, that when there's the passing of a loved one, they are there to serve you and the family, with the absolute possible support and comfort that you need. Absolutely. And, of course, don't forget, all the while holding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. They really care. Don't forget to call Hanson Mortuary, 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636, located at 710 6th Street in Rupert. And Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Real quick reminder, too, before we get Dave Bego on the line, I want to stress the fact that if you are injured and you're coming back from a surgery and you're just having a little trouble trying to get back on your feet or get back in the swing of things, you better call Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. The number to call, write this down, I'm not kidding you, 678-1191. 678-1191, the number to call, and let them help you get back to being you. With the best of exercise programs, the use of the hydrotherapy pool, the knowledge of the best physical therapists anywhere, all of this at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. And the number again, 678-1191. Right now, let's go to the phone line. And a dear, dear friend in Indianapolis, Indiana. And that would be, of course, Dave Bego. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good, Zeb. Hope you're doing well, too.
I am. I've got about 25 items I wanted to talk to you about this morning, so I'm going to narrow it down to about 7. I don't know if you caught it or not last night, and I'm not going to elaborate too much on it because I want to get your thoughts. The Chinese or Wuhan virus may not have been released accidentally, and that is from a person that worked within the government and their testing laboratories. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I saw her on TV last night, and I think she's spot on.
When you say spot on, I mean, this is going to open the doors and the corridors for a lot of thought, a lot of scrutiny, and I'm going to tell you my feelings, a lot of hatred for the Chinese government. What are yours?
Well, yeah, and I know that there's people in China that don't like their government anyway because it's a communist government. And we have a gal here in Indianapolis. I know she's an acupuncture gal. She immigrated from China like 22 years ago. Her husband, and her son, and she doesn't like the China government either. She calls them communist all the time.
Yes. But, the severity, I mean, we cannot overlook the severity and the inhuman attitude of these scientists, these mad Chinese scientists, and if everything proves to be true, that this was a virus developed to be the scourge of mankind, or at least a possible scourge of mankind, and they released it on purpose, all hell should be paid.
Yeah. And, I think I've said this on your show before, Zeb, is that, Russia and China and other places around the country know they can't beat us militarily, so they're trying to take us down from within, and this is just another shot at it.
Okay, I'm going to get to another subject right now, Dave, one that you and I have talked about many times in the past, and that's professional sports. I'm going to say this, and you may not agree with me, but I am glad. I mean, underline the word glad, that the NBA is suffering for television audiences or getting any kind of approval from the audience. I am glad that the NFL on the first weekend, the viewership was down over 16%. I am glad that people really don't give a rat's eyebrow if the World Series is played in one city or another. I'm glad that professional sports is taking a hit because of their stance politically. How wrong am I?
No, I think you're right. And as I think I mentioned to you before, this is these players, they're all being brainwashed by their unions, and they're standing up because the union bosses are telling them to do this. And, of course, the owners of these sports teams, they're being browbeaten, and they're just backing down, and that's what this is all about.
But, Dave, how did the unions play such a big part? Help me on this a little bit. When you have the big mouth, lack of intelligence, LeBron James coming out and making statements like white people are out hunting black people and demanding that they wear on their team sidelines all the Black Lives Matter T-shirts, demanding that logos of Black Lives Matter be put on all the courts of the NBA. Really, where is the power over these athletes? It seems to me like they're willingly being participants.
Well, what happens is the union bosses sit them down, and they go through all this stuff with them. And you got to understand, these guys make a lot of money, but they've never had to really use their intelligence or anything in the free market and business and other stuff like that. So these union bosses can really brainwash them by saying, people, blacks are being, discriminated against, and, the government doesn't want to help people of any color and help them move ahead. And we need to put into effect things in this country that will allow people to move forward. And then they talk about free education, free health care, and all that kind of stuff. And this is all the same things that I went through with the unions trying to brainwash our people, that they needed all this stuff. And at the end of the day, the truth is that they don't care about these people at all. All they want to do is gain power and control to take over this country. And these people will end up like a socialist communist country like Venezuela or Cuba.
Absolutely.
And people just need to look at these countries and realize what their program is all about.
Some of these jock jerks are stating some stupid remarks. Like one, of course, said that the players are really good, smart people because they're trying to solve the ills in society. But the white fans are racist. You talk about putting a knife to your throat. Without the white fans going to these games and spending $250 a seat or more, I don't think they'd be making the $1 million contracts that they are.
No, they don't understand that the free market is why they're being successful at what they do, and has allowed business people to, start their own teams and build it and do all this stuff. And it's because you have a free market where businesses and everything grow and are able to support these things, and people grow. And even if you look at going back to this Black Lives Matters and the fact that racism against blacks, that's all in the major democratic cities across the country. And you look at the top 10 in that, like New York and Chicago and St. Louis and Seattle and Portland and Los Angeles and all those places. The Democrats have actually brought these people down, and they put them in this position so they can control them. And I don't know if you've seen Candace Owens on TV, but she's a black lady, and she expresses it perfectly well.
Absolutely. We've got a quick call from a caller, and caller, you're on the air. Please, go ahead.
Good morning, guys. One thing I wondered about, and your guest is the only one that can answer that, is the city of Indianapolis. How come they haven't protested that name?
Well, because Indiana is mostly a conservative state. We do have a Democratic mayor, but he's kind of a laid-back Democrat, and and I know him and met him, and he doesn't like putting up with this stuff either, and he just and he grew up in rural Indiana, out in the country, and I think he just got connected to the Democratic Party, but he doesn't have the same far left stuff in his mind that a lot of Democrats have anymore.
Yeah, that would be a travesty because of the Indianapolis 500 and things like that. Why do they want to change them anyway?
Yeah, they don't. But you know, they're we're still getting things going. And I don't know if you guys heard, but the Big Ten is opening back up.
Yes.
And here, and that's really great. And Indiana was a part of getting that done.
Absolutely was. And kudos to you. Thank you, caller. I appreciate your call. Dave, I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to go to the Biden and Harris campaign, or as they slipped up yesterday, both of them, it is now the Harris-Biden campaign. Joe got off an airplane yesterday in Florida, and I'll be honest with you, and I'm not trying to ridicule the man or make fun of him at all because of his stature, but he looked like a shell of a man that used to be very unstable, very unsure of himself, and it was all pre-programmed. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you, and you know, I know a guy here in Indianapolis, a friend of mine here in Indianapolis that used to have a place down in Florida, a condo close to Joe Biden's, and he knew Joe Biden, and he'd tell me all the time that Joe was just a fragile person that really couldn't think straight and do things right, and all that kind of stuff. And he just told me that nobody should ever support him.
What do you think? This is a personal opinion question, but what do you as a businessman think is going to happen at the debate on the 29th? Are the Democrats going to try to cheat and somehow give Joe a heads up and maybe some audio-type answers in his earpiece? Do you think he'll be able to stand up there for the hour or 90 minutes or whatever of the debate and try to be articulate? I mean, honestly, what do you think is going to happen?
I think it'll be a tough day for Joe Biden, no matter what they do to try and support him, because I just don't think he has the mental capabilities anymore to stand up and articulate and do things well. And but the other side of it, Trump needs to be very professional, and that's one of the biggest things against him in this country is him coming out and saying things that are kind of off the wall that he shouldn't be saying, and he really needs to be professional. I'm going to tell you this, Zeb, and I wish people would read my book, because everything you're seeing going on in this country, I talked about in The Devil at Our Doorstep, because they use the same tactics against me, because it's the same people. It's the unions and Soros and, the far left and all that. And but when they debated me, I was very professional. I never called them names or said bad things. I just exposed their lies and their hypocrisy and stuff like that. And I actually had staunch information with me to share with the people in the audience, and that they could even go on and read about these people. And, in the debate, I always won. And I think Trump needs to be professional and approach it in that way.
Okay, you made a couple of statements there that I absolutely agree with you. There will be, I think, points of interest that both candidates may try to arbitrate, and they may fuel some fires, and they may try to lose their tempers. But I totally agree with you that with the mental capacity of Biden being diminished, if he gets into a war of words, if I were Trump, I would let Biden just bury himself.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And again, he needs to back off some of his bad remarks about Biden and stuff like that. He just needs to expose Biden doesn't know what he's talking about in a very professional way.
Wasn't it so blatantly clear? I'm not sure it was a faux pas. I'm just kind of considering the fact that the power lust of Kamala Harris making what people said was just a faux pas, a slip of speech when she said the Harris-Biden campaign, but then he said it later on that afternoon yesterday, too.
Well, Zeb, my comment's very, very easy. That tells you something about both of them.
Absolutely.
And they don't have the capacity to run this country. And if they do the things that they want to do in this country, they're gonna bring us down economically terribly bad. And because, you know, their ideas and their budgets and their free this and free everything else, you know, it'll destroy this country and it'll go bankrupt.
Wasn't it disgusting for you, it was for me, to witness the fact that President Trump has engineered, I'll use that word, a Mid-East peace accord with countries that have hated each other, and now it could have the building blocks to go bigger and better, and there were only one or two sources of the media that gave the president any praise whatsoever.
Doesn't surprise me, Zeb. As I've said many times, the media is controlled by the unions and the far left, and they're going to continue to do this. And you know, they look at it that he's backing down and he's giving these other countries power to take us over, and that's not the truth. You know, he still watches over them militarily, but he's gone to them and got them to back down off of what they do and learn to negotiate and become partners with other companies across or other countries across the world.
I wanted to ask you what's going on in your area of the United States as far as conversations that the Democrats absolutely are pushing for, and that's a mail-in ballot. I am deathly afraid of the mail-in ballot. I am deathly afraid of what it'll do to denigrate the prestige of our election. What are your thoughts?
No, I agree with you 100%, and people I talk to feel the same way about it. And you know, we've had a lot of people tell us they don't like that going on. They still think people should go in to vote and cast their votes and do it the right way. And but you know, this is one way behind the scenes. It's a fraud that the Democrats, the far left part of the Democrats, are trying to use to make sure they bring Trump down.
You know, I was listening to what Biden is doing, and he hired Eric Holder, former Obama AG, and a slew is like 1,000 attorneys or whatever, to basically, if they do push for this mail-in balloting, we probably, the American public, we wouldn't know who the heck the president's going to be for months or weeks.
I know. It's they do. You know, the left does everything they can to win the battle that they want, and they do all kinds of things, whether it's legal or non-legal or that. It's all up to them, because at the end of the day, they don't care about this country.
I want to ask you one last thought here this morning, the coronavirus. And we were talking about it just a little bit ago, you and I, with the release of the virus, perhaps by the Chinese on purpose. What are the thoughts of the people that you work with? What are the thoughts of your employees? What are the thoughts of your managers in regards to, since March, the mask wearing, the social distancing, and everything else? What's going on in people's minds back there?
Well, we still do that kind of stuff, and to make sure that our people are safe. But we feel like it's a not near as big a pandemic as what the left has developed it into. It's all a political thing. But, you know, we still do, even here in our corporate office, we've never worn masks in here except if we have people come in, and we just test them, their temperature to make sure they're not sick and that. But, you know, it's gone well. And in our corporate office here and in our manufacturing plant across the way and our supply company, we've only had 2 cases over this whole period of time. And one is because a lady got it from her husband, who got it when he was out with a bunch of people in some type of program where they were all having dinner and drinks and everything. They there were some people there that were sick that should have shown up, and he got it from them, and she got it from him, and another guy that was kind of in the same situation from our manufacturing company. So, you know, it's been very, very small, and you know, even in our, you know, we own Maple Creek Country Club. We've only had one member that we've known that's come down with it, and nobody else.
Oh, my goodness. You know, I hear this from various guests. Well, we know of 2 people here, or we've only had 1 case here. And as a businessman, and you relate to numbers more so than most people, doesn't it kind of make you itch your head a little bit and say, well, gee, if there are minimal numbers like this around my neck of the woods, why are we hearing such outstandingly devastating negative numbers nationwide?
Well, but, you know, Zeb, overall, the nationwide, it's less than 2% of the American population.
That's right.
And but you see it in areas, and again, cities run by Democrats who haven't taken care of their people and have done things like, you know, forcing them into nursing homes and hospitals and stuff like that. And, you know, they've really made the pandemic worse in their particular areas.
Absolutely. Real quick, give your books. I want to really stress these books that he's written are absolutely excellent. Give a plug to your books and how people can obtain them, Dave Bego, please.
Well, you don't want to get the first book, because I rewrote the first book into the second book, The Devil at Our Doorstep, and they can go online at my website, thedevilatourdoorstep.com, and buy it, or they can go on Amazon. I mean, Amazon's got my book on sale, paperback-wise, for, I don't know, like $7.50 right now. So I encourage you people to do it and read it, because it's what we're seeing in America today.
Absolutely. A dear friend, and I do not say that lightly. He really is. Dave Bego, thank you for being on the program this morning. God bless. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, and God bless, too.
All right, sir. Thanks much. Just a good guy, and that's what he is, Dave Bego. We're going to have our next guest on the program momentarily. I want to remind everybody about Denny's Restaurant. I am so hungry this morning. I mean, I had my little bowl of bran flakes, corn flakes, whatever the heck it was, at 4 o'clock this morning, and I would love to go to Denny's right now and sit down, pick up the menu, and I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want that. Oh, my goodness, wonderful breakfast, lunch, and dinner menus for you. Absolutely, and nice people serving you at America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, and 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. I mean, it's the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. And be listening Monday. Monday, we're going to make a decision as to our lunch bunch for September, please, at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. Thank you very much. By the way, I want to remind everybody that you need to get out of Dodge City and you need to head for the hills. Well, on a four-wheeler or a side-by-side from Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. You know, that's the one thing we missed so far because of Deanne having some health problems this fall. We haven't been able to get up and really enjoy the outdoors like we normally do. But I'll tell you what, you better stop over there to Let's Ride and check out all the side-by-sides and four-wheelers. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 2, and they've got all the accessories, and they've got a super service department to keep you running. Mm-hmm. Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, where the fun...
To a point, you start asking yourself questions, and you're going to start saying, there's got to be a solution to this, and the solution isn't maxing waters. The solution is someone else. But if someone else isn't a rhino, someone else that actually wants to make a difference within the community, because obviously you cannot replace Maxine with John McCain. So again, that's how I feel about it.
Let me ask you this question, and it's been stated many times by a lot of people, that the state of California and the mishandling of policies and some of the policies that have been adopted in the state of California, almost socialistic to the point where they're stymieing growth of businesses, people are leaving en masse. What about California under the leadership of Gavin Newsom? A lot of people have said California is lost forever if he retains the governorship.
Let me go back to what they're doing to the state right now with like Gavin Newsom. Telling people what to do, telling people you have to wear the mask, you have to stay home. Then you have mayors like the mayor of Los Angeles telling people, threatening people, shutting down their water and utilities if they're having parties. So you have these politicians like Gavin Newsom who are telling people what to do and how to run their lives. And people are starting to get it. That is what government is. That is what more government in your life is. And that's exactly what Democrats believe. They believe that the government should have control of your life and what you should do, can't do, and when you go out and where you go, they want to know. And that's none of the business. And again, that's why I'm a Republican because I believe in small government. I believe that the government should be out of the way on a lot of things, and it should not bother me. They should let me live my life and let me proceed. And that's what you need to talk to people about. You need to tell people that that's what Republicans think. That's how we are. And right now, this is the best time, if anything, for California Republicans to educate people, to talk to people, to get people motivated and out there, and to really make a difference, to really get them to switch over in these last not even a few months left before the election. I think you sway a lot of people over, and then coming into the 22 election for the governor's race, it's going to be we could take that mobilized people and get them to really get involved in the next 2022 election.
Let me ask you one final thought here, Omar, and I've got to have you back. I've got a list of questions I'd like to propose to you. But with the California fires, I'm going to make a statement, and you can agree or disagree with me. I know the state very well, and I would say that your forest and your land management has been totally lacking with the fuels that are on the hills and in the forest, and that has created these extensive fires that have run amok in the state of California. It's not climate change by any means. It's human error and human mismanagement. Would you agree or disagree?
No, I definitely agree with you. There's a huge mismanagement that's going on in the whole state, and that's because Gavin Newsom doesn't know how to hire the best and the brightest people. Because if I were governor, I would have a team of people that would research all this, that would have implementation prior to anything like this ever happening. Because once it happens, we would have something. We would react because we had something implemented from time, and I think that's the issue. The governor seeks to act when a disaster happens. I mean, it's again, that comes in California, and we end up filing a bankruptcy in the state of California because we're going to go broke because we have things like that. They react to it. They borrow money. They think that they're just going to keep stalling from the state falling apart. But the only way this is going to come back, the California comeback, and that's what I call it, the California comeback. It's there, and it's possible, and but it's attainable if people react to this governor, and that is what's happening right now. I think this COVID and these fires, being people to be cooped up in their homes, is let alone enough to get this governor out of there.
Absolutely. You know what? I'm going to say this, Omar. You are welcome here anytime. You're a breath of fresh air in a smoky day. Omar Navarro, candidate for California governor, and believe me, a sharp, sharp young man. Please consent to coming back on in the future. I'd be more than happy to support you any way I can.
Thank you. I'll be happy to.
Thank you, sir. God bless you. Thanks.
God bless you, too.
Sharp guy. That's all I can say. Omar Navarro, and he's the founder of United Hispanic America, running for governor against Gavin Newsom. And he's got the right kind of mindset. Believe me, we need more people like him. We got to get a weather forecast on here, Zeb. Yes, you are running late again. Some things never change. Our weather is brought to you this hour. Woo! Smokes out there. Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company, and they've been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cache area for well over 50 years. I am blessed that we started our business with them, and they are so good, so smart, and so professional with the tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, along with retirement planning, and the list goes on and on. They have offices in Burley and Rupert serving you, the professionals. Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
That air quality alert is still in effect, and a fire weather watch is going to be in effect for tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Widespread haze for today. Again, if you have upper respiratory issues, please stay inside and make sure you take your inhalers with you wherever you go. We are expecting sunny skies. Not much of a breeze to speak of, and a high of 87. Tonight, widespread haze, clear skies, low of 51. Tomorrow, that smoke going to stick around, sunny skies, high of 90. And then we're going to be in a fire weather watch beginning tomorrow evening. Widespread haze, partly cloudy skies, low of 55. Do have a slight chance of late afternoon rain showers and thunderstorms for Friday, expecting a high of 83. Winds could gust as high as 25 miles an hour by Saturday. Showers likely, about a 60% chance, along with some thunderstorms as well. Partly sunny skies and a high of 67. That's look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Next couple days might be a little gnarly if you have any kind of a breathing problem, whatever. I know last night I went out and exercised my old rope horse a little bit. Man, I started coughing and my eyes were watering. So please, if you don't have to be outside, especially if you have some kind of a breathing problem, asthma, hay fever, whatever, don't go outside. Not nice, believe me, with all the smoke. Our weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. And that name says it all when we say the professionals with the best of accounting services in the Mini-Cache area and beyond. And I urge you to get a hold of them today. Office locations at 1710 Overland in Burley and 625th Street in Rupert. The professionals, Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. Kind of a closed note to the fishing game. I'll be there to open the back door for you in just a few minutes. I forgot to unlock the door this morning. I apologize. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Zeb. I didn't know if you knew Candace Owens was coming to Idaho Falls, and I guess it's kind of a spendy little event, so I won't be able to go. And but
I'm not exactly
I thought maybe
sure.
You could have her on the program.
I am trying. You know, it's funny you should call on that, because just last night I was alerted to the fact that she is coming, and I'm trying to get and obtain a telephone number of a managerial handler to try to schedule her on the program. And if you have any information on that, I would appreciate it after the program.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll see if I can find out the manager of the event in Idaho Falls. I guess it's $1,000 a plate.
It's one of those really, hamburger, cottage cheese.
I hot dog, but I'm not going to go. So as much as I want to fight the cause, I'm not going. So, but I will find out if there's some sort of contact number, and I will have my wife do some research, and I'll be in touch.
I would appreciate that, because, yes, the people I talked to last night, they also were trying to help me get a contact number, and upon doing so, I will make that connection. And, Randy, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
God bless you, man. Thanks.
Bye.
I want to remind everybody, too, about our friends over to Patterson's Electronics. Oh, these people know so much about what's going on with electronics, whether it's your power cords or your monster cables or your home theater systems or your video surveillance cameras. I mean, whatever it is. I mean, they can sit down and cite chapter and verse on and on about all this and all that and everything. Leave me in the dust. I'll tell you, they're sharp. Complete sound systems, car stereos, all the TVs by Samsung, Sony, Toshiba, LG TVs. Woo! They go on and on. They've got it all at Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. Number to call, 678-6997. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. You get a hold of them today. Really good people, Patterson's Electronics. Wow. Coming up next hour, we have the Fish and Game for their monthly report, and I think, and they're sitting out in the pickup right now waiting for me to unlock the back door, Craig White, the regional supervisor, and also the fishery expert, and his name is Mike Peterson. They're going to be on the air with us, and they're going to try to solve the burning question that I threw at Terry Thompson last month. Why are there large and also smallmouth bass? So we're going to talk about that a little bit, about many other topics with the Idaho Fish and Game. Tomorrow being Thursday, I want to mention this to you real quick. We have rescheduled Dr. Carla Dean Graves, the expert on the COVID-19, and she will be on tomorrow. She was scheduled for yesterday, had a time frame issue. She will be back tomorrow at 10:30, so don't forget that. Right now, we're going to highball it down the road and listen to the news, and we'll be back in about 7 minutes with the Fish and Game. I'm visiting when I should be paying attention. And with us, the Fish and Game. We're going to start that interview in just a moment. Zeb at the Ranch on this great Wednesday, September 16th, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best of tires, along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. You bet, helping you get back to being you. A couple of quick notes. Don't forget Greystone Crossing, senior living. Seniors, I keep telling you, you need to call and you need to look at this beautiful 12-bedroom home, brand spanking new on Alfresco Road in Heyburn. My. 3 meals a day plus snacks, housekeeping, local transportation, all included in the rent. This is a beautiful home for you. Call Matt or Kelly Wiggins at 650-4979. That number again, 650-4979. Make an appointment to see the beautiful Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Heyburn. One more quick note, and that pertains to 7K Metals. With silver purchases, boy, save money, save on silver purchases, very valuable, and they come right to your home. That's right, you can help build yourself your own financial security and future with 7K Metals and silver. Don't forget, this is a great opportunity and a valued treasure for your loved ones in the future. Get a hold of Lon Hardy at 312-8699 or Sharon at 430-3259. Please tell them I told you to call and give the information to you about 7K Metals and silver purchases. It's that time to have our dear friends on from the Fish and Game, Idaho Fish and Game, and we have, as I turned the wrong microphone on there for a moment, we have both the regional supervisor, Craig White, and the man that knows all about small and largemouth bass, Mike Peterson, the regional fisheries expert with the Fish and Game. Good morning, Craig.
Good morning. How you doing, Zeb?
I'm good. You've been under the weather.
I was a little bit for earlier in the month or end of August. Boy, time keeps flying. I can't even keep track of where we're at.
September 16th. Can you believe this?
No, I actually can't. It's a little mind-boggling to me.
So you were down, had surgery, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a big deal. In the big scheme of things, people suffer a whole lot more. I just had some gallbladder issues, and I wasn't planning on saying that on the radio, but we're pretty tight here, Zeb.
You doggone right we are, and we'll remain so. We're brothers in arms, or absolutely this morning, brothers in fish.
That's right.
A lot of things going on with the Fish and Game right now, and I would imagine, Craig, before we get too far and start talking to Mike, these fires are really dangerous up in the South Hills.
Yeah, that's one we didn't need for sure. I mean, I'm not sure that we ever need one that's kind of, starts up on its own.
What was the origin, if you don't mind my asking?
Well, that's a question for the Forest Service. I understand there was no, lightning strikes on the mountain when it started, so that kind of tells you likely origin. But my understanding is they're still investigating that. They're not ready to reveal that answer. But again, my understanding is there was no lightning strike, so that kind of tells you what the only other option is.
What are we at? Pretty close to 30,000 acres, aren't we?
The last I'd heard it was past 20. I don't know what it is of today, but the the challenging thing obviously is just the resource. I mean, fire in a system can be good. Certainly some ecological systems develop with fires and need to be maintained by fires, but in the West, especially some of these areas, they're a little different sort of area, and especially when you get into sagebrush and kind of uncontrolled fires or fires that get started can really change the hillside, the mountain for a long time, and it'll. And the tough part right now is, most of the resources, fire resources, are on the coast in California, Oregon, and Washington.
Yeah.
So it's a real challenging time right now. The closure has about 2/3 of that mountain now closed off, and of course, and I certainly appreciate where the force is at and what they're trying to do. It's a very popular area, as we all know, and trying to manage a fire, not have all the resources that maybe you would have if this fire had occurred early in the year before all resources shifted to the West Coast.
Yeah.
Means that you're really concerned about, folks going into an area, and so you put up a fire closure. Challenging thing for people that, Fish and Game often works with is we have an archery controlled hunt going on. That's a primo hunt. We have a muzzleloader hunt coming up a little later, starting at the end of this month, and then we have the primo controlled hunt for the rifle in October. And so we're really watching that, trying to do our best to communicate with the Forest Service, figure out, how things develop, where it goes, and trying our best to communicate that with hunters.
Do you, and I see it on this paper, I was going to ask you anyway, do you publish, like through the Idaho Fish and Game, a daily web page of maybe where the fires are or the severity of the fires, etc.?
So what we have is on the front of our website, or our front page, you can go on, and in the left-hand side, there's a fire update.
I see.
And primarily because, we're not the agency that's fighting those and have that responsibility, what we're doing is linking back to InsaWeb. It's a fire website maintained by the federal government that oversees, fire fighting in the West, and so they can go there and see kind of what the latest is and closures. I mean, everything BLM Forest Service gets updated there. So,
I see.
So we do our best because people will come to our website looking for that. We do have it at front and center, but it's going to link you back to those fire updates.
Let me ask you this, and Mike, jump in here. Mike Peterson, I'm going to try to share this and make sure we get equal time here. Mike, you are the fish expert for the Idaho Fish and Game. How long have you been doing this?
A little more than a year. I started last year in the Magic Valley region around the end of July.
Where are you from?
Originally from Jerome.
I
moved back after working several places in the state. Up in the Southwest region, I've worked out of the Panhandle region as well. I worked for about 10 years on the Snake River Redfish Lake sockeye project.
Right.
And now I'm back in the Magic Valley.
Mike, what does a fire season like what we're seeing going on in the South Hills with the burning of close to 30,000 acres, et cetera, what does that do to the fishing up there?
So, fires can have certainly have impacts on fisheries. To give you an example, in 2013, 2014, I believe it was the Pony Fire, near, just around a little bit north of Anderson Ranch Reservoir, burnt several thousand acres. Yeah. And, we had rain events in the fall shortly after the fire that put sedimentation into the river. Well, that pretty much wiped out the kokanee production for that year. All the fish that spawned in the creek, the eggs were covered up with silt and basically suffocated. And so, there can definitely be some impacts from fires. In terms of what's going on right now in the South Hills, there's not a lot of fishing opportunity necessarily. Rock Creek is probably the most heavily fished area in the South Hills. There's a few tributaries that'll be impacted.
You folks stock that every year, don't you?
We do.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I believe we'll be stocking it this month as well.
I see. Craig, I want to come back to you real quick, and then we're going to get into more with fishing. But what does stage 1 fire mean? What is a quality of stage 1?
So we pretty much on Fish and Game property follow what the federal government does. So the Forest Service BLM, both north and south of Twin Falls, have gone to stage 1. Basically, the only place you can have a campfire is in a designated campground in that fire pit. That's essentially the only place you can have an open fire. Mike, do you recall if there's some other leniency as far as if you have a stove, backpacking stove, that sort of thing?
I think under stage 1 you can cook with a grill stove or a grill that uses petroleum.
It must just frustrate both of you. And I know Craig and Mike, you're both great outdoorsmen, love the outdoors, especially here in Idaho. But when you think of the scenic beauty and all that California has to offer, and then you think about these fires, and they were human-caused because of idiots. I mean, honestly, I'm going to call it like it is. Human beings started those fires.
Yeah, and that's what's really hard to kind of swallow and deal with is, again, natural fires in some systems are very important. In any system, after a certain amount of time, they kind of reset stuff. I mean, let's be honest, up in the Clearwater, use that as an example, up in the Lochsaw, North Fork of the Clearwater, which is our Unit 10 and 12, is one of the most famous elk herds up until about 1980, 89, 90, and then the population of elk really started to decline. But the elk up there back in 1910 probably did not exist like they did from about 1920 or really about 30 through 1989. And the reason is that had been about a 300-year-old old-growth type forest, and there was huge landscape changes from fires in 1910s and 20s that took that forest with very little understory and converted it to pretty much a grassland area for 10, 15, 20 years, and then shrubs kind of became the dominant thing until you get to 1990s, and you got more again of a forest that's dominated by trees with a little understory. That is not, elk are grazers, they're grass.
Yeah.
So that fire actually created the elk herd that people came from across the nation, but even the world, to hunt. And it was very famous, maybe one of the most famous ones in the West. So certainly fire has a role, but fire is going to benefit some wildlife species, and it's going to be a negative for others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And our biggest concern, we are concerned about that, and it interrupts activities, right? It interacts people from going out and recreate, whether they like to ride their motorcycle or their side-by-side or whether they hunt. And it will have an impact, but right now, I know the BLM is hoping that doesn't spread down to the lower areas, because then we get into sagebrush. And sagebrush, the problem in the West we've had with sage grouse is fires. Is one of the problems, because it wipes out the sagebrush. And normally, 200 years ago that would have been okay because sagebrush would have came back. Well, now we have invasive species such as cheatgrass that dries pretty early, like by June, and it's ripe to keep the fire going. Regime changes from a 50 or 60 or 100-year fire out there on these sagebrush areas to 5, 10, 15, and it never allows sagebrush to re-establish.
Very well stated. Very well stated. I'm going to cruise along with some other issues, and I think I know what you're talking about on this next issue regarding hunting. Fading ink take out of pouches? Now, without knowing for sure, I would imagine that's your license and or whatever from the Fish and Game. If you keep it in that plastic or whatever, the ink's going to fade, right?
That's correct. And we had this problem 2 years ago. I thought it was kind of...
Why don't you buy a more expensive ink?
or more expensive paper, right? So 2 years ago, we kind of had this problem. It was widespread. I haven't seen the problem. I mean, mine's in my pouch right now, and I looked at it the other day. I'm pretty sure I'll look at it right now just to be sure. But it hasn't been as widespread. But certainly if you get it out of the orange pouch, that kind of prevents some of that. Again, hasn't been as widespread, but before you go out in the hills, you probably ought to take a look, and if it has, come get a reprint at the office.
Okay. Now, I think I know what the next one means on the list. CWD, chronic wasting disease.
Yeah. Boy.
See, I'm learning
from
you.
I was going to say, boy, we've talked about this enough that you have that down.
I got her memorized.
That's awesome. So, chronic wasting disease is a disease, purons that gets into the brain and of ungulates, particularly the deer family. So deer, elk, moose.
Right.
It is in surrounding states. We have not yet detected into Idaho. But
let me ask you a question. Pardon my interruption, but why? Why are we in Idaho seem to be immune from having the problem that neighboring states have?
We're not immune. Certainly we're not. This kind of started springing up, boy, it's probably been at least 40, 50 years ago in Colorado, Wyoming area.
I see. What was the origin? What was the genesis? Why?
Well, these things exist out there. When I at one point had looked at this, kind of studied it a little bit, and at the time the thought was there were some captive deer populations being used for study, and it started there. It was probably one of those things where the concentration of that allowed it to kind of get started and rolling. How that first got there, I'm unsure. I don't know if anyone knows for sure.
Okay.
Obviously, it had to be a deer that was brought in that had it.
I see.
Now, over the last, like I said, 20 years in particular, 30 years, there are captive deer facilities and throughout the nation. Some states allow them, some don't. So it's gotten into white-tailed deer a lot in some of these captive places. And so, you look at the map on the U.S. and it's kind of, you'll see it back in the, what I call the Northeast, people call South Central U.S. But as it's gone, it's gotten further west into Wyoming. It's gotten up into Montana, and the way it's either spread, because of some of these distances, not likely due to just moving in the populations. It's likely because someone harvested a deer or got a deer that had it in that animal, and these purons rest in the brain tissue and the other parts of the tissues of the body, not really the meat, but like bone marrow and other stuff. And so they end up taking that deer home, harvested in Wyoming where it is, and they go up to Montana where they're from, and they, cut up the meat, and then they throw the carcass, out on the hillside. And so it gets in the soil, and then deer come along, and so it's probably some of the spreading definitely occurs that way.
Let me ask you, Craig, real quick. Looking at the issues that you have here to discuss on hunting, I'm going to let you pick out the most important because I want to spin. We don't get Mike here every time to talk about fishing. I want to get to Mike, and I've got 1,000 questions for fishing. So you pick out the most important information, and then we'll go to Mike.
Well, I'm going to go back, and I know I was getting long-winded, which is why you were cutting me off.
We're used to it.
But back to CWD. So the point is yes, it could walk across the border from Wyoming or Montana into Idaho. Maybe it already has, and we just haven't detected. But we have a strategy to try and detect CWD if it enters into the state that way. And part of what we're doing is deer that are harvested in Idaho in certain parts of the state, and you can go online and see where that's at, in eastern and northern Idaho, we'd like the heads from them. And if you hunt over in eastern or northern Idaho, you can come to our Jerome office, we have a freezer outside of what we call our hunter education building, and there's a sign by it, and you can put that head in the freezer, and then we take the brain stem and we send it off to be sampled. Again, we haven't detected it yet, but we're trying to get as many samples as we can from eastern and northern Idaho this year. So if you hunt there, or if you hunt anywhere else and you want to bring it in, we'll sample it as we can. That's a big thing I want to share. That's probably the biggest thing that we want to let hunters know about this fall.
Okay.
The other thing is there's rules now against bringing in a carcass from one of these areas that is known CWD spot.
Oh.
And you can go on their website. You can find out where those are. Don't bring in the whole carcass into the state. You're only allowed to bring in pretty much the meat.
The meat.
And don't be... If you bring in the head, and of course some of these have prize heads, you can do that, but only if it's been cleaned out, the brain area has been cleaned out.
Real quick question, short answer. What about humans eating the meat? Are they susceptible to any dangerous effects?
So we're not in the human health profession, so we always have to couch, our answer with refer to, the health department. The answer, though, is to the best of our knowledge, no one's ever contracted, basically the equivalent of this is mad cow disease, and you probably remember that scare. And to the best of our knowledge, no one's contracted, the human variant through eating tainted game meat, but we don't encourage you to do it.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to ask...
most states have a program where they don't encourage it. Again, that's a human health answer.
Absolutely. Caution.
Yes.
Extreme caution.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else on the hunting side that you want to mention prior to going to Mr. Smallmouth Bass?
Well, I was wondering if we can give Mike a new nickname that involves something about small or big-mouth bass. But first of all, before we get to Mike, before I forget, I'm so happy we have Mike here. He's a local person that went out and did well and learned a lot about different fish management, and he brings that expertise back, and really, really glad to have Mike here. So one other thing, pheasant stalking, we do have it on one of our WMAs, Niagara Springs. We're going to have 2 new locations that we're going to stock pheasants. Give us a call. I won't belabor it. They're Bureau Reclamation tracts over in the Rupert area, and we'll be starting to stock pheasants there. And just like on the WMA, if you're going to hunt on one of those tracks, it will require an upland game bird permit. It used to be called a pheasant permit.
Okay.
But it is, in order to hunt those birds that we release, you need that permit. So
okay.
I'll leave it at that, Zeb, unless you have any questions.
No, I think you handled that very well. I have a burning question, but I'm going to do a commercial. And then, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to go a little early to the break at the bottom of the hour after I do this commercial, because I want to give Mike at least 29 minutes of trying to give the answer as to why God created a smallmouth or largemouth bass. So that's the burning question that he's going to answer. And first of all, I want to tell everybody about Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Hello, Jeff and the crew over there at 459 Overland in Burley. They've got all your mattresses for a good night's sleep. Oh, they've got all the bedroom sets. They've got all the window coverings to make sure your neighbors can't spy on you, the blinds, the shades, everything. They've got the largest selection of floor covering, all the carpet, everything, and, of course, all your furniture needs, and the greatest selection of recliners anywhere, any place, right there at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see those really, really nice people today. Sean, I'm going to send it over to you a little early for about 3 minutes with the bottom of the hour report, and we're going to come back with Mike Peterson, and he knows all about fishing. Stand by.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Welcome back, and we're going to start right now with the fishing specialist and the expert of the Idaho Fish and Game, Mike Peterson. Mike knows all about fish. goes to bed at night, and instead of dreaming about sugar plums, he says one smallmouth, one largemouth, one smallmouth. He counts fish. And I asked this question to Terry Thompson last month, and Terry's eyes kind of narrowed and his jaw dropped down, and he just stuttered for a minute, and he said, I don't know. And I asked, why is there a difference between small and largemouth bass? I wonder what God was thinking of when he created both of them. Mike, give me your answer.
Well, it's kind of complex. To begin with, they fill different needs in the environment. So smallmouth bass, for the most part, do well in cooler water. And so areas like...
cooler water, define that.
So cooler water would be, like the Snake River, Lake Walcott. We have a really healthy smallmouth bass population. Growth rates are through the roof for that population. There's lots of food in the reservoir, and they do really well. Water temperatures, when they're spawning, are in the upper 50s to lower 60s.
Okay.
To give you kind of largemouth are a little bit different. They need a little bit warmer water, so they do best in waters that are mid 60s to upper.
More shallow waters.
Not necessarily shallow. They'll move and use similar habitats as in terms of reservoir. A lot of times bass are found in deeper water at certain times of the year, and they'll move up shallow to those warmer areas for spawning, and then they kind of move back into those deeper areas.
Now, during the break, in all honesty, in an open program, I asked Mike, I said, do the smallmouth bass and the largemouth bass ever play like the Hatfields and the McCoys, and some get married to each other? In other words, do they have a mating between the two, supposedly?
It is probably pretty rare, and the reason is just the difference in spawn timing.
Really?
So because smallmouth need those cooler water temperatures, they're done spawning before largemouth really start spawning.
I see.
So you may have an opportunity where a smallmouth male, which is still looking for opportunities to reproduce, will...
That was very well stated, by the way.
We'll look for
a family-oriented program.
We'll look for...
White sitting over there chuckling like us.
So there may be some opportunity, but it doesn't happen very often.
I see.
And that's what keeps them two distinct, basically, species and populations, is they need different spawning conditions to be successful.
Where in the United States are the bass? I'm going to say this up front. I would say like the Ozarks and Missouri and other places, probably the most predominant bass areas. Am I wrong?
No. So typically largemouth in the southern half of the United States, from Texas, the southern states, moving a little bit north into Kentucky.
Yeah.
And smallmouth, the northern parts of the eastern United States is where they were found historically.
Now, have you been back east or the Midwest and had a chance to observe the other sport fishing like muskies and northern pike and all that?
I haven't physically taken part in those fisheries in the Midwest, but I am somewhat familiar with the populations. Northern pike are fairly common.
Oh, that leads me up to asking you. The muskie family includes the northern pike and the walleye, I believe. And I heard a rumor that there was going to be some tiger muskie stocking to get rid of some of the doggone carp.
So,
pardon me.
We are investigating whether or not...
That's a good way to put it.
Whether or not tiger muskie would be a good species to introduce into Murtaugh Lake. For some carp control, as well as another unique opportunity for the region.
Now, the carp, let me ask you this, the carp and the suckers. Where and how did they become so prolific? I mean, their numbers are astronomical. You could go over here right now on the north end of the lake and walk on them. There's that many.
No, they're a hardy species.
I would say.
They're hard to get rid of. They reproduce. They have very successful reproduction in most water years.
Are they basically in control of the water with their temperament, etc.?
No, I wouldn't say that. We have areas where we have carp and, huge carp populations. Lake Lowell near Nampa.
I see.
It is dominated in biomass by carp.
Really?
But we have very successful largemouth fisheries and bluegill and channel catfish.
I see.
So they're not necessarily the only thing in the water column.
I see.
They can. There's other species that can be successful in the same areas.
Well, so in regards to the sport fishing, if you will, and the trash fish that are in there, I mean, is there a good chance that Idaho still has excellent fishing opportunities?
Oh, there's no doubt. I mentioned earlier the smallmouth fishery in Lake Walcott.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. Lake Walcott is also heavily. There's a lot of biomass from carp as well. So that is another situation where both of those species can be present. And the smallmouth bass fishery in Lake Walcott, there's folks traveling from all over Utah. I get phone calls weekly asking about the fishery in Lake Walcott.
I guess my question would be probably pertaining to Murtaugh Lake most of all, because I live right next to it, is the carp and the suckers and the catfish. I mean, how did they get introduced so that we're seeing such large numbers?
So, as you probably know, the water that fills Murtaugh Lake comes directly out of Milner, through the canal system.
Right.
So anything that's found in the Snake River could potentially be found in Murtaugh Lake.
I see.
And, I've heard
including sturgeon.
I've heard the rumors of people seeing sturgeon in Murtaugh Lake, and it is very possible that sturgeon have been introduced or came through the canal system.
I wanted to meet the water skier that went head first into the water and came up eyeball to eyeball with the sturgeon. I'll bet you that man could play like Jesus and walk on water.
I'm sure it was eye-opening for sure to see that in that water body.
What is your main duty as a fisheries expert for the fishing game? I mean, do you travel all over? You get to go fish every day? I mean, what are you doing?
So I basically oversee the fisheries management program within the region, as well as the fishing and boating access program in the region. And so all of our access sites that are throughout the Magic Valley, I kind of work with. We have a a recreation site foreman that maintains those sites, and we develop new sites together as well. And then there's a population biologist, management biologist that works, that gets to do most of the fun field-oriented stuff.
You guys have had excellent programs to get people involved in fishing. Are you still doing those programs?
So, because of the conditions today and the pandemic that's going on, some of those programs were put on hold and most of the programs occur in the spring. As soon as cabin fever hits and people are excited to get back out, that's a good time to introduce them to fishing.
Absolutely.
And so we're hopeful that we can get those programs going again in the spring. We'll know more later this winter.
When you get up and go to work each day, is it a different challenge for you as far as the fishing is concerned?
Certainly. That's one of the things that I really enjoy.
Who do you have to report to, Craig?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
What kind of does he really sit down at the computer and say, "Now, Mike, I want this all typed out with 3 copies for every story or whatever"?
No. Craig's a good supervisor. He listens to...
Look at him look at you, man. What else can you say?
Yeah, he has his fingers crossed under the table. But not only that, but, there is therapy. If I'm your supervisor, the department pays for therapy automatically.
Okay. No, but seriously, I mean, every day do you have to, keep everybody informed as to what's going on?
We have things that pop up.
I see.
An example is, we get lots of phone calls when irrigation water shuts off. we have fish in our canals. How do we get these? Can we go out and salvage them? Technically, we cannot go out and, salvage fish from every canal in the Magic Valley. It's just not feasibly possible.
Right.
And so in certain areas, we work with groups like Trout Unlimited. When we have dewatering events, we'll work with that group and we'll go out and TU is moving roughly 9,000 to 10,000 fish a year out of the canals back into the big woods.
That many?
Yep.
Holy
and so, we do what we can with those types of opportunities. And, this year, Magic Reservoir, because of drought conditions, water was shut off a little earlier than normal. So we issued a fish salvage, which means you can basically, as long as you have a license, you can go out and net fish or capture them out of the system. And we prefer people to utilize those fish than just let them die in the mud.
Absolutely.
So.
I passed over something that's really interesting, I think, and I had a chance to go up in Cottonwood area and watch as they basically clean the fish out of this one part with the electrolysis. Is that the proper terminology? Fascinating. I really found that fascinating. But you do a lot of stocking of really good fish like the rainbow trout, et cetera, don't you? How do you figure how many numbers of how many fish in what area?
That's a good question, and we have a really important tool that we utilize to help us answer those questions. It's what we call the Tag Your It program. So we'll tag a group of fish and we'll put them into the system, let's say the South Fork of the Boise River. And we monitor for a year how many of those tags are returned. That gives us an idea of what harvest was and what total angler use is. So that includes harvest plus catch and release fishing. And, if we're seeing really low returns, we might move that release group of fish to another location where we see better returns. And so, it's kind of a juggling act. Our hatcheries are at full production, and we only have X number of fish that we can stock out each year. And so we utilize those tools to tell us where we get the biggest bang for our buck.
Has the coronavirus affected the hatcheries?
In terms of visitation from the public, yes, they are currently closed to the public. But in terms of stocking out fish, we've continued to stock out fish. We see a lot of people recreating, probably more than normal. And so, it's been business as usual in terms of getting fish onto the landscape.
Terry was on last month, and I asked him another question, and his eyes narrowed, and his breath became very short. And the question was, you say you put possibly 1,000 fish here or 1,000 fish there. How do you count them?
So some of that is based on, it's a hatchery technique. You put a net full of fish in a bucket. You weigh the bucket. That tells you how many pounds. Then you count the number of fish. So that's
getting way too elaborate for me.
That gives you a number of fish per pound. So then we add X number of pounds onto the truck to get to our 1,000 fish.
And so it's a guesstimation as to the numbers.
It's fairly close.
I see.
Yeah.
Kind of like a feedlot.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
See, we came up with some good answers. I've got to get a weather forecast on you. Craig's sitting behind that mask, and I just wonder what evil thoughts are going through that mind right now. I want to remind everybody about Edith's Cafe. Don't forget what a great place to go eat. It's right there at 144 East Highway 81, right across from the Burley Golf Course, and they're open Tuesday through Thursday, 11 to 8, Fridays and Saturdays, 11 to 9, everything from hamburgers to steaks, and it's all phenomenal. I mean, you're going to love it. And they do catering, too, so I urge you to stop in and enjoy a great meal at Edith's Cafe, 144 East Highway 81 in Burley. If you want to call them, make an order, by golly, they'll have it for you at 878-2248. Don't forget great food at Edith's Cafe. Right now, let's have the weather brought to you by Scarro's Meats. Don Scarrow and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. Telephone number to call, 324-7657, or you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. The most delicious of meats. Marinated pork ribs, tri-tips, all the different hams and bacons and sausages, All of this from Scarrows Meats in Jerome. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
That air quality alert is still in effect, and a fire weather watch is going to be in effect for tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Widespread haze for today. Again, if you have upper respiratory issues, please stay inside and make sure you take your inhalers with you wherever you go. We are expecting sunny skies. Not much of a breeze to speak of, and a high of 87. Tonight, widespread haze, clear skies, low of 51. Tomorrow, that smoke going to stick around, sunny skies, high of 90. And then we're going to be in a fire weather watch beginning tomorrow evening. Widespread haze, partly cloudy skies, low of 55. Do have a slight chance of late afternoon rain showers and thunderstorms for Friday, expecting a high of 83. Winds could gust as high as 25 miles an hour by Saturday. Showers likely, about a 60% chance, along with some thunderstorms as well. Partly sunny skies and a high of 67. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. And the weather brought to you this hour by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. We have a call. And caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go for it.
Yes, Zeb. I've been unable to listen this morning to the whole program, especially the first hour. And so I don't know if you've already covered this, but last night on Tucker Carlson, did you happen to see that Chinese scientist doctor that was on with him?
Yeah, we did, Randy, and I think you'll understand I'm in the middle of the Fish and Game monthly report. So I'm not going to talk about other subjects.
Oh, I thought you were done with those guys. I'll hang up. Bye. Sorry.
No, I'm not done with them yet. They're only half done. They're half baked. We're going to continue. Craig, get up to the microphone. You know, I'm so glad you brought this guy with you, Mike Peterson. Sharp guy, knows all about fish.
Yeah, I try and make sure we get people here that are smarter than I. That's not hard to do, but in Mike's case, he's far exceeded the expectation.
You know, you didn't leave me even a pause.
I did not give you that pause.
No, I noticed that. Seriously, this has been one of the most interesting for me because we've had kind of a combination of the hunting, which is going on right now, and some great fall fishing, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did we miss anything that we need to talk about?
Well, you know, you brought it up when you asked, has the hatchery operations changed during COVID? And the answer as far as operations, no. Visitations, yes. One other thing that's changed is our ability to conduct in-person hunter ed classes. We went online, as I think most people in the nation did. One class that is required if you're starting trapping is a trapper education class, and if you're starting the wolf trap is a wolf trapper education class. Those aren't available online, so we have started back up this fall with offering those classes in person. There are some, criteria that have to be met as far as social distancing, that sort of thing. But if there's anyone out there that wants to get into trapping, our wolf trapping, we do have some online registration. That's how we do it. Right now, the wolf trapping class is filled up, but we are offering a hunter or a trapper education course on October 6th at the regional office. That'll be from 5:30 to 9:30. So if there's someone who just needs to get their trapping certification, go online and sign up for October 6th.
Let me ask you this, and this goes to you probably, Mike. Does the Fish and Game you offer hunter education classes and everything else? Do you ever offer any how-to fish classes?
Yeah, so we have, some of those programs that you were alluding to earlier. We have what we call fishing clinics or fish trailer events.
Yeah.
And those events, we show up in specific locations and, we provide a fishing rod and we have staff available that can help, teach you how to fish or.
I'm going to interrupt you there because, a lot of people that have never fished before, maybe they don't know the right size hook. They don't know how much weight to put on their line. They don't know the difference between maybe casting reels and spinning reels and all that. Have you ever thought about putting on a clinic?
We have had, I believe in certain regions. I'm not sure in the Magic Valley that we've had like fly fishing type clinics, how to fly fish, that sort of thing.
You never see a fat guy on crutches learn how to fly fish. Ain't going to happen.
But no, that's something to think about. Those fishing trailer events do some of what you're talking about, but they may not go in depth as much.
Did I read or hear that recently, within the last 3-4 weeks, there was a record crappie caught in the state of Idaho? I thought I heard something about that.
I think there was, but it was a catch and release record, which means the catch and release records are designated by total length. And so I think it was 16 inches or 16 and a half before, and now it's at least a half an inch increment bigger.
So verification could turn into a fisherman's tale.
Well, so there are some requirements for that. You need to have a picture of the fish on a ruler. You have to have a witness, and they have to sign an affidavit that says that they were there and they saw the fish.
And only the guilty know.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to wrap this up in just a minute. Boy, the hour went too fast. I've enjoyed it. With the fishing game this morning, I want to remind you about our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And you know it's true. Service is the number one word. They come at the vehicle you're sitting in at a high lope and say, may we help you? Whether it's tires for your car, pickup, SUV, horse trailer, boat trailer, they've got all the sizes. They've got all the tread designs. Whether you need brake service with their highly trained brake technicians or front-end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries, especially batteries, you better check before you go to the hills this fall. It's going to get chillier, and you want to make sure you've got a good battery to turn over that engine. Don't forget the best at all 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, James and Buell, Dan on Pole Line, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin Falls, the Twist family and Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Mike, you've got the honors. You got 20 seconds to give us a wrap-up about fishing. Go.
Okay, so just real quickly, anadromous fish, so salmon steelhead this fall, is looking up over what it's been the last few years. We have more fish crossing lower granite in terms of fall chinook and coho, and we have roughly 35,000 more steelhead over Bonneville than we had this time last year.
Absolutely.
So get up to the anadromous waters and fish.
And you counted every one. Okay. Craig White, supervisor, final thoughts, quickly.
Wow, I thought Mike did such a fantastic job. You're going to end with him. But just to let people know, we do appreciate your support. We appreciate not only you, Zeb, but the hunters and fishermen and trappers out there. They're what make our job enjoyable, is when we can put a smile on people's faces, and they're out there enjoying the outdoors.
And if anybody has questions for the Idaho Fishing Game, call the Jerome office, 324-4359.
That's right.
Got it memorized. Man, I tell you what, I might as well put on the green uniform myself.
I think you should have
There
one.
you go. Send it over next month.
All righty.
Extra large. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up and put it back in the box for today, and I'm very, very happy to have Craig White and Mike Peterson with the Idaho Fishing Game on our program. And we'll be back tomorrow morning at 8:06 for another version of Zeb at the Ranch, where we always say the way things were, the way things ought to be, and the 4 words that mean the most to me: in God we trust. See you tomorrow morning at 8:06.